Welcome, everybody. Welcome this morning to Zyxel's Tech Talk. My name is Tri Nguyen, and I am here to present to you and just talk to you about how our partner solutions, our partner offerings will benefit you as a reseller. So thank you for signing up as a partner if you've already have done that. If you have not, please, we have some information on how you can do that at the end of our presentation here. But I also, again, like to make this interactive as well. So if you'd like to ask any questions while I go through the presentation, please feel free to use the Q&A section of this webinar, and I will try to get to those as we go through them. But we wanted to introduce you to who Zyxel is, what products we have, and give you kind of a high-level overview of what we have to offer. So hopefully we find this useful for you. And again, just to say thank you for spending this time this morning, this afternoon, wherever you may be. So Zyxel Networks, we've been around since 1989, so over 30 years of networking expertise that we bring to the market, 700 employees worldwide in 150 markets, 100 million devices making connections globally, and over 1 million businesses work with our solutions today. So we are trusted to deliver solutions and connectivity to millions of people around the world through different brands, through different partners, through different solutions, through, as some of the vendors that you see here, a lot of in the hospitality, the retail space, and then also the small business sectors where you may be doing business in now. We are working with some industry partners that we trust and provide a high level of solutions to us that we integrated within our product lines. Companies like McAfee, Norton, Webroot, Bitdefender, providing security products, security solutions that we integrate into our security products. So we utilize their expertise because we know we can't do it ourselves. And so we leverage what they do best into our products. And we are segmented into 3 regions in the US. David, Andy, and Jacob manage those accounts in those states. So if you have not dealt with them, you will definitely be, interacting with them for pre-sales support, any kind of systems engineering support that you need to bring in, even post-sales tech support, or even distribution-related questions, pricing, special deal registration, special pricings. They are your advocate to providing those services to you. So definitely leverage them. When you have opportunities, any questions, leverage them, and they can bring alongside, your distribution rep and managers to help facilitate maybe drop ships or stocking or forecasting of certain particular projects that you are using for your web and for your projects and for your business. And we are solutions driven by partners like yourself, because we are kind of an end-to-end solution. We depend upon partners like yourself to provide us information on how could we make the product better for you and for your customers. So we are the R&D for our products as well, for both the hardware and the software. And again, that gives us leverage to be able to facilitate new firmware, new feature functions, even new products that are in the mix, again, to help you with your demands of your end customers. We know that you are in the field, so that gives us a lot of field information. And so you're in the front lines, gathering all this information from your end users, and you're in the trenches of dealing with the day-to-day solutions. And for us to get that kind of feedback is super valuable for us. So we hope that you continue to leverage us in that way. We provide an end-to-end solution from a networking perspective. So anything that it connects to a network, whether it be security, wireless, PoE switching, fiber connectivity, hotspot integration with managed solutions from a standalone mode to a cloud perspective, Zyxel has something that connects to that and helps you with that type of solution. So definitely a broad range of products. We're one of the few vendors who have a full stack type networking, and all really kind of bringing it all together, the glue. And I think the main selling point that has been great at leveraging and pulling other partners into our solution has been our Nebula Cloud platform. It's a powerful, effortless, and scalable connectivity solution that you can manage that full stack: security, switches, wireless, in a centralized single pane of glass to deploy all of your networking needs and manage them in a way that is very cost effective without you having to build your own system. Many of us are, wanting to be MSPs or are MSPs, and you've probably had to build VPN backdoors, port forwarding, remote desktops, that kind of scenarios in order for you to gain access into the network. But now you have a system that can provide you all of that, as well as troubleshooting, management, auto provisioning capabilities, all in a single cloud platform. So you can even configure them without even unboxing. There's no additional hardware or software that's required to configure and monitor these products. All you need is a browser, or the app can help you as well. So we have a web app, and we have a mobile app that is downloadable that helps you to auto provision or to help you onboard systems and move them into your account. And there's no extra cloud key. You don't have to install a server or a cloud controller or anything on-prem. All you need is the devices themselves. So that gives you an advantage, whether you're just going in there with just access points, just switches, just security, or you can lead with all three. So there's always opportunities for you to get a foot in the door. And then based on what you and your customers are seeing and utilizing, can get further benefit of using the entire stack. So we'll talk about the entire stack and the products that are there in the later slides. But you can literally launch a network in minutes, again, without even unboxing. You just have to scan the QR code, onboard them into the Nebula platform and say it's part of your account, and it's assigned to a specific customer or a client of yours. And once those devices are able to get internet connectivity, they will automatically download the firmware, the latest firmwares, the configurations for it, and then get the identity that's required for that network. So you can onboard people in literally minutes, as fast as that download speed can take those firmwares and upload. Now, so you can imagine having to deploy, let's say 40 access points. You literally will scan in all 40 QR codes or load them into your account. Once they get installed, plugged into a PoE switch, once they're lit up, get internet connectivity, they all will download their configurations, their information, their firmware, and then immediately go available online based on that profile. So you now have access to not only managing it, but then you can support your customers remotely anywhere you have connectivity, anytime. The Nebula Control Center gives you that. As long as you have internet connectivity, you can configure, monitor, and find issues potentially to that. So as an MSP, getting this information is very valuable. Things like wireless information, what is their signal strength, maybe what ports are on or off, or what kind of content, what kind of security functionality is being maybe logs or issues that are coming up that are being flagged within the system that you can then troubleshoot. Or maybe you could even do, loop line testing, etc. But it gives you network clarity where you typically had to have somebody on site, you had to have a server, you had to do some sort of Wireshark or some sort of packet tracing within there, packet capturing to find out what might be going on within the network. But you don't have to manage that anymore. We can do that all within the cloud system. And it's managed in a multi-tenant organizational type scenario. So you have multiple customers, each one will be in its own organization. And then underneath each organizations, they can have multiple sites. So if you're dealing with a retail customer, they may have their organization as retail customer, and then every store could be another site within that. So you can manage all of the licensing, all of the security profiles, all the SSIDs, all the roaming, the authentication, all of that in that cloud platform. So we're all about scalability. We're even if you're just a single deployment all the way up to hundreds of locations, we can manage that based on what your needs are without you having to, again, install your own type of services and monitoring. So it really cuts that out in kind of the ecosystem there. We do all the work for you. And also Guest Network is made easy. We have cloud-based captive portal, which you can customize or use kind of the default configurations that are there. user and device management, so allowing different types of access, 802.1x authentication, and then auto guest protection for guest isolation to making sure that guests cannot see other guests within that guest network. So you're able to configure that very simply, very easily, and provide that to the business if they want a private and a guest network. All of the updates are obviously over the air, it's over the cloud. So firmware updates and changes, those are going to be automatically pushed. You can set the scheduling on when you want those to happen as well, so that doesn't impact your customer. It allows for you to manage now, thousands of devices firmware updating versus having to do them one by one through, if you had to manage all of those customers. Built-in user management, again, for the cloud authentication, you can base it and use different types of access like two-factor authentication. It can put into a token key so that you can use it for VPN, you can use it for wireless authentication, or any kind of user access that you need. On any kind of enterprise type solution, you can do that. And then working remote, whether you're at home, in the office, being able to use VPN, both L2TP or site-to-site IPsec-based VPN. You can build that between home and office or with your client devices like your laptop or your mobile devices to build through standard IPsec VPN or L2TP to get back to your corporate network, making it easy and efficient to do and very secure to do your remote working. It's all built within our award-winning cloud platform. So millions of users now are using our Nebula cloud platform, and we are proud to bring that to the market. The mobile app that I mentioned before can not only give you the access to onboard, give you some systems information, do some troubleshooting as well, but it's also to auto provision. It also gets you notifications when certain alerts and triggers and alarms that you set to notify you or your IT group of any kind of alerts and alarms that's happening within your network. You can get that kind of notification through the system. And currently we have over 100 devices now supported in our Nebula cloud platform. So you can find out more on what products are all available within our range. You just have to go to zyxel.com/nebula and you'll be able to see the list and information more about these 100 devices. I'm going to talk about a few of the devices tonight or today as well. One thing to kind of clear up, you'll see product out there either on the price list or in the description, and they'll have kind of two nomenclatures. One is Nebula Flex and one is Nebula Flex Pro. So Nebula Flex is just a term that we use that allows for a standalone device, or typically standalone type device where it has a web interface or maybe even CLI interface, but it can be put into the cloud. It's an optional, so you could either put it in as a free cloud offering, or you can go to the Pro Pack, which then unlocks a lot more features. It gives you 365 days of logs and some of the other advanced functionalities like a cookie cutter, copy paste type templates in the Pro. When a product has Nebula Flex Pro nomenclature within the kind of the description of it, it means that it automatically comes with 1 year of the professional Nebula pack. So Nebula Pro, 1 year is included with it because the intent is that it's going to be used in the Nebula cloud platform with the full feature function available to it. So all the advanced features like machine learning for switches and Wi-Fi, advanced monitoring, technology for VARs like smart antenna, Wi-Fi health information, IGMP. So really, if you're an MSP, there's really no reason for you to stay kind of in the free, but we know that you might have a break fix customer today. And those break fix customers, you typically have no visibility into their network. So we know that having at least the base pack, the free option, gives you the visibility that you would need to troubleshoot a network. Oh, and yes, I did mention it, but did I mention that it's free? We do have a free option within the Nebula platform. So the base pack, whether you're on standalone or even the Pro, there's always a free tier, which gives you kind of a baseline of functionality. And, that may change a little bit in terms of, what's all offered within the free. That could be more, could be less. But right now, the free gives you a great visibility. If you don't want to have to build in kind of a remote desktop to get into the network, this will give you network clarity and troubleshooting capabilities that you would not have in a break fix scenario. We want everybody to be in the Pro Pack, obviously, because that gives you full feature functions, 365 days of logs, all the monitoring tools, and for your audits, especially if you're an MSP today and charging your customers a monthly fee to have some sort of cloud or active management today. And the cost of it on a street price level before your partner discounts is set at about $30 per device per year. So that really comes down to about $2.50 per month that potentially could be part and rolled into your cloud offering or your MSP recurring revenue that you're charging to your customer. So let's say even in a doctor's office per se, that you had an access point, a switch, and a gateway for security. The cloud portion of it, that's $7.50 a month in terms of street price cost that you would be passing on to your customer or marking up to associate and give you that flexibility and management of their network. The MSP pack is for MSPs, I would say, that have at least 10 different customer organizations, or maybe have multiple admins that they need to do things across organization to manage them from a log perspective, from a troubleshooting perspective. It gives you that flexibility. So the MSP pack is a yearly license that kind of opens a higher tier, like kind of a higher level of management across the different organizations. You can still do that within Pro Pack, but the MSP just makes it a lot easier to be able to add certain admins to only certain organizations versus having to go individually into each org and add that particular admin into it. And then of course, if you had to remove admins, you would have to take one by one out. So we can do it more of like a group policy that you would see in kind of like a Windows, Active Directory type structure for MSPs. But it gives you all the alerting and alarms, kind of cross organizational, so that you can have certain people get alerts and alarms for certain types of sites. So there's some great benefits, and we continue to add more features into the MSP pack, giving a great value. For Wi-Fi, so that was kind of our Nebula overall kind of coverage. I know there's going to be a lot of slides, but hopefully you'll stick with me and we'll be able to cover, again, a broad line of information. And we want you to just be able to take something away, and maybe down the line, days or weeks from now, you all of a sudden think about, hey, I remember something within Zyxel's presentation that may help me with this customer application that I'm faced with right now. And really all we want you to do is then, if you don't know for sure which products to use, call us. Call one of the sales reps, the one that's assigned to you for your state that you operate in, and we will get on board with you, and we will help you through, from beginning to end, to make sure that you have the right product, that you've picked the right solution and for that application that you need. Of course, everybody's dealing with different budgets, different functionalities, feature sets, or even technologies that may come into play. And so we want to give you those options, the good, better, best, so that you can make a decision with your customers on which to go with. You probably have your customers who go like, I just want the good, right? And that's good enough for them. But then there's other customers says, I don't need anything. I just want the best that there is. And so that's all they want to purchase. And so we want to educate you on that. And Wi-Fi is probably one of I always say it's kind of the front runner. It's everybody sees it. Everybody connects to it as much as it's important for your core network and your switches and security to be there. I think Wi-Fi is kind of the technology that continues to advance very quickly. It seems like every year or two, there's some advancements in the technology of Wi-Fi. But we kind of have three types of tiers of Wi-Fi technology: static antenna, dual optimized antennas, and smart antenna technologies. So I wanted to educate you on what's kind of the main differences. So dual optimized antenna, when you see that in the description, it allows for you to use the access point in a ceiling mount or on a wall mount. And we can change the configuration of how the antenna kind of works and functions on the signal based on a switch that's on the device that you can physically change, or you can override that within the Nebula cloud and be able to choose that option within the cloud portion. So wall mount and ceiling mount. So on a wall mount, you could see when it's on a wall, it's going to do more of that football shape normally when you just have the typical AP, but then it's going to cause interference between the floors and not get very much floor coverage, within the floor. So by changing it to a wall mount configuration, Now the beam is kind of focused into a football shape along the floor. So then it's not transmitting it's minimizing the transmit between the floors. So now you're getting better optimization of the Wi-Fi signal, less interference that you're causing within the floors, and ultimately give you better coverage. So again, if you do want ceiling mount though, you put it on top and it gives you that oval shape. So again, rather than blasting it through, you're getting more wide coverage when it's on the ceiling. So that's the advantage. But we love smart antenna technology. It's Zyxel's award-winning wireless technology. It's a patented technology that gives you the ability to kind of automatically do the optimization, whether it be kind of wall mount or ceiling mount. You let the AP do it with its technology. So in a lot of Wi-Fi spaces, they deal with co-channel interference. That's probably the biggest scenario that causes poor quality, data transmission, even though there is a very high signal that's available. I've used this analogy. When you go to into a public space, to a conference center, the volume level that everybody has to talk is very high because everybody starts talking very loudly, even though they're standing next to each other. So the next thing you know, you're kind of screaming at each other in order to get heard. So the option is to just kind of turn everybody down. If everybody just kind of talked a little quieter, then all of a sudden people could hear each other better. So Wi-Fi is similar in that regard. But if you're trying to get wider coverage, then you can't really reduce it too much, because then you have these gaps between the access points, right? So if you're trying to talk to not only the person in front of you, but maybe somebody, down the hall a little bit, you have to kind of find the right optimal without causing as much interference as you can. So turning down the power is not always the great solution, but we do advise that you do mitigate interference. We don't want you just using a megaphone. If everybody had a megaphone and it was just screaming at each other in a conference room, no one would hear each other. They would just have all this extra noise without any kind of benefit from it. So you can increase capacity, you can increase the coverage by using smart antenna, reducing interference all at the same time. So what smart antenna does is, let's say in that same kind of office space. So smart antenna is great for high density, or maybe places that have a lot of types of interference, maybe in a hospitality, maybe in an MDU type space that has a lot of noise, a lot of other devices that's causing noise. How many of you are in an office space and you turn on your Wi-Fi signal and you see like 20, 30 different SSIDs? They could be coming from a lot of different access points. So there's a lot of interference that's happening here in this example. Now with smart antenna, what we do is through the technology, we will optimize the antenna signal and the antenna patterns to listen to the client better and also to speak to the client better. So we go through an algorithm of over 700 different optimized antenna patterns, and we find the optimal beam. Now, we do have a competitor that has, a beam forming type technology that's similar, but it requires for the device on the other end to also have some sort of beam forming to gain the benefits of that beam forming. For us, our technology is agnostic. So the device could be a non-smart antenna device and still gain benefits because we're doing all the work. We're going to listen better. We're going to speak better while eliminating interference behind us while we're going through these patterns. So that's kind of a coverage of our Wi-Fi technology. But now coming into maybe the feature functions, we can do single click wireless mesh. We can extend Wi-Fi to, another access point if necessary without having to run Ethernet cable. And it can be done in the cloud and be able to gain its configurations quickly, easily through Nebula. And it's really simple with you not having to run a cable to those locations if necessary. Just keep in mind, though, the bridge does cost you some bandwidth in order to produce that bridge, unless you're using like a tri-radio, like our Wi-Fi 6 type access points. Then you can use the Wi-Fi 6E channel, the 6 gigahertz, to be able to build the tunnel or build the link through that if you'd like. But we use enterprise class as a standard, WPA2, WPA3 security, 802.1x authentication. We have roaming as a standard, 802.11r, K, and V, and any other letter you want to use for assisted roaming. But we always have customers. Does your APs roam? And a lot of times the roaming is a function of the client devices themselves. But because we do have some AI functionality as well, we can help to make those decisions for the client to force them to authenticate to a new access point. So we also have something that is called a dynamic pre-shared key. So you can eliminate a lot of the SSIDs that are in the network and be able to just utilize a single SSID, but based on the pre-shared key that they use, it puts them into their right bucket, puts them into that right VLAN, puts them into the guest network, whatever it may be, based on that pre-shared key that they're using. So you can authenticate that. You can onboard, especially maybe grouping devices together, or maybe IoT devices, or grouping people in a resort in a hotel room, so that the entire space is their personal private network. You can think about doing a MDU type space as well. So let's say you have one SSID in an MDU. Based on that pre-shared key they use, they go into that office bucket, right? And anyone who uses that pre-shared key and any other devices, they're all part of that VLAN. So the entire building becomes their network, based on that pre-shared key. So some powerful things that you can do with Wi-Fi and those feature functions. And I did mention the AI machine learning. Again, client devices are the ones that decide typically on how strong of a signal before they drop it. And so a lot of devices hang on to access points that are farther away because they've been roaming, they've been moving. And even if you stood right underneath another access point with better signal, better quality, but because there is some overlap and it sees the other one, it will hang on to, neg 90, but then have poor quality of transmission, maybe some disconnections, et cetera, in terms of packet loss, but refuses to reconnect. So we can automatically move clients to different channels, different bandwidth, different access points based on their signal strength. And this visibility is the visibility of at least the signal strength is available in our free platform. But the pro platform allows for you to set these thresholds to say, hey, if the client is at neg 85 or neg 75, depends on how you want to set up your quality of service, send a kind of a disconnect, forcing them to auto reconnect or look for a new device or a new AP within the area to get better quality, better signal. Or you can use it to load balance devices. So if you only want 10, devices on a single AP, the 11th one will be forced to try to look for another one. We'll set thresholds where you can say, well, we'll allow for you to connect to the overloaded one if you don't see any other access points. Like you keep trying and you keep coming back, we'll still let you on. So you can set those thresholds again to make sure you maximize your channel distribution and thus less interference overall. And we pride ourselves in our design. So we take into account the RF design in our products first. All you could see within the products, if you get your hands on one of them, you'll feel the difference between what a Zyxel product feels like versus other brands that you can kind of get off the shelf. We maximize the hardware, the housing, the interference protection between the Wi-Fi cards, the antennas, all of that is shielded. So we shield those away to prevent and mitigate as much interference from not only within itself. You have, sometimes three radios all sitting on a PCB space, in a matter of like 6 inches. And so having to manage that as well as mitigate interference that could be caused from other access points within that coverage area, that becomes a very important task for us to tweak and fine tune to provide this kind of product. And so we pride ourselves in a lifetime warranty of our products, not only the access points, but all of our business class type products. So right now we're currently in the phase of Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E. So Wi-Fi 6 in itself is capable of up to almost 10 gigs of Wi-Fi throughput, theoretical throughput. So everybody's going faster. People are asking, well, what do I need? Why do I need to upgrade, or do I need to upgrade? It just depends on your application, but being able to move more traffic, more data through, especially when things are within the cloud, people are getting bigger pipes within WAN connections within the office itself. So being able to, obviously communicate within the network and to the internet quicker, faster is always a good thing, but making sure you have the right pipe, the right core. And that's where I think wireless plus switching networks is very important. So on the wireless side, we in most of our products, we break it into a kind of 3 tiers: simplicity, flexibility, and the ultimate. Ultimate typically is our highest tier flagship products with smart antenna technologies and Wi-Fi 6 or Wi-Fi 6E. On the low end, kind of an entry level, we have our Wi-Fi 6 APs here. This is our simplicity. If you just need them for a kind of, a single office or maybe a user at home, or maybe some wireless outdoor bridging type functionality, these are your solutions there. Some of them, majority of them are all Nebula capable or Nebula Flex. And then our NWA series with the 110, 210 and the 220AX, it's a 6E access point. Those are newer. And so these are kind of our mid-tier. So this is our flexibility. You typically are in that Nebula Flex. So it's optional to move it into the cloud if you need to. We understand there's an array of applications, again, budgets or customer needs. So we want to help you to decide what APs. A lot of our partners, though, they come to a standard. They just will choose, well, this is the right price point for my customers, and I want to standardize on one kind of either simplicity or flexibility model, and then one of the top tier, ultimate series models. So there's some breakdowns on the specs there, and these are our these are our ultimate products, our WAX series type technology, and the D at the end of the nomenclature there is our dual optimized antennas. Again, whether you choose for ceiling or wall mount. And then you see there is our WAX 620D-6E. That's our 6E product. And notice there too, it also has a 2.5 multi-gig uplink port. And so it can handle also, a higher throughput on the Wi-Fi bandwidth there. And then moving up our tier, our WAX 630S is our smart antenna technology. And our kind of our flagship WAX 640S-6E, it's our 6E with smart antenna technology. And that boasts speeds of up to 7.8 gig of theoretical throughput using the tri-band scenario there. And the great thing about that one is it's tri-band, active. So it's all all 3 radios can be on at the same time. So you can use 6E for maybe some clients, or you can use it as a kind of a point-to-point bridge when you're doing kind of wireless meshing if necessary. The beauty is that the wireless meshing can be automated, or it can be auto sensing. You can turn that on so that if something happens on the Ethernet side, or maybe the switch network somehow gets kind of severed between, it can actually look for other access points that does have connectivity, and build that bridge for you to help you to mesh those scenarios while maybe that Ethernet side is down. And then our top tier non-6E is our WAX 650S. So that is our, dual radio, has 5 gig uplink ports, and it also will take it also needs 60 watt PoE++ in order to have its kind of full activity. So I did mention 6E. So quick education, 2.4 is your end space there. 5 gigahertz is your AC space. You'll see the AX is all in the 5 gigahertz. That's our typical Wi-Fi 6 type technologies. And then Wi-Fi 6E and Wi-Fi 7 open up that 6 gigahertz range. You can see it's a lot bigger bandwidth pipe, a lot more channels that you can segment out. Even at 160 megahertz worth, there's a lot of channels that are available within that space, but you require the technology on the client side to take advantage of that 6E. So as more devices come out, you'll see that. But what we're really seeing is the move to Wi-Fi 6E and ultimately Wi-Fi 7 coming out probably next year or late next year. We do have some kind of early product potentially at the end of this year, early next year for Wi-Fi 7. But, a lot of this technology, it's always, expensive in the beginning. And then there is a kind of reduction as mass market kind of takes effect. But it's really driven by kind of the consumer usage, or, businesses typically can't take advantage of a lot of these extra speeds though Wi-Fi 7 does offer some added functionality that helps in high concentration areas, or be able to maximize the channel utilizations by a packet level on multiple access points. So that's going to provide a great advantage using the Wi-Fi 7 technology. But you can see the max data rate jumps from about 10 gigs to about 46 gigs of throughput on a Wi-Fi 7 potentially. And again, you won't see that, I would say, in the top line of that throughput until probably years after Wi-Fi 7 becomes available. But it's technology, and somebody has to keep selling chipsets, and we have to have a upgrade path so that we all can stay in business, right? So that's kind of the technology on wireless. And I did mention wired connectivity being very important, because if you have a poorly constructed wired core network that's powering your devices, like your access points, then it can really affect how that service, and because the wireless is what connects most devices to that network these days, that becomes kind of the sticking point for customers, right? How many of us have gone to places that have poor Wi-Fi? You connect to it, it says it has 5 bars, but you can't send any traffic. And so the network itself is either clogged or something is wrong with it. So with our switches, the naming conventions, really you have to think about or worry about is the GS, that just stands for gigabit switch. You'll see MG and XMG. Those are multi-gig type products. So it has 2.5 or 5 gig or 10 gig ports. XS switches are all 10 gig typically, or they may have some multi-gig, but primarily it's a 10 gig switch, whether it be copper or fiber or a combination of that. XGS switches are traditionally gigabit ports with 10 gig uplinks or maybe multi-gig uplinks. If it ends in HP, it's a PoE plus or PoE plus plus 60-watt switch. If it ends in EP, then it's an Echo or Eco power with kind of a lower power budget, just from a cost perspective. If it's an FP, that's often associated with our larger power budgets, so higher power budget standards. And if it ends in F, then it's a fiber, typically mainly a fiber switch with maybe some copper uplinks. So fiber ports can come in 2 flavors right now: SFP, SFP plus. We will have some, QSFP and SFP plus or -28s, et cetera, coming out, in the years to come. But these are the primary. SFP is gigabit, SFP plus or 10 gigs. So you need those transceivers and the correct modules for that to operate those seating docks on those switches. So if you're using fiber, there's different types of modes and products that we have, including direct attached cables for 10 gig uplinks. Those are great because you don't have to terminate your own fiber. It's like a 1 meter or 3 meter cable. It already has the fiber transceivers built into it and connected. And so you just have to plug it in like you do a cable to uplink switches now using 10 gig fiber. So PoE comes in 3 flavors now. Your standard 15-watt PoE, the 30-watt PoE plus is where most of our products and most of the industry is in right now. But with the adoption of Wi-Fi 6 and 6E, and then Wi-Fi 7 being more power hungry, more radios needing more power, then you're going to see 60-watt PoE being adopted. We already see that within our multi-gig switches and our Wi-Fi 6 tier, the highest tier APs that customers are using. Now, be careful, because if you use a 30-watt PoE switch with those higher end APs, they will still work. They just won't have one of the radios turned on. So you may think that it's working, but you will have like a degraded service. There'll be a warning within the interface itself that says it's in a degraded kind of mode. So we want you to make sure you have the right power and be able to facilitate, maybe an upgrade to the network to maximize those access point functionalities. So please be careful with that, making sure that you've spec'd in, the right wired connectivity in the PoE. Even the cabling is important as well. So if you're trying to deliver more throughput and power through these cables, you have to make sure that you have the right cable. So Cat5e, you cannot get 10 gig at, on that. You need a Cat 6 Cat 6A to go kind of the full 100 meters. You'll be able to do partial, so you get like 5 gigs at 100 meters on those. PoE will go through through it, but again, you won't be able to get to that heavy, the higher speeds when you're not using the right cables. And in general, our switching is one that allows for you to do VLAN, voice VLAN automatically based on the OUI or based on the device that you're using. It can auto detect and recover different PoE devices. We have what we call intelligent PoE that can power up to twice as many devices on a single switch than some of our competitors, because we only we register the draw of the device itself and put that against the budget rather than the classification. So let's say, for example, you have something that only uses 15 watts, but it's classified as a 30-watt standard, then most other switches will budget out the entire 30 watts. So you end up wasting 15 watts of power just because of the way you classified it. For us, in that same 30 watts, you can now power 2 devices with that. We have CCTV, IPTV reporting information that can be given on the switches, and also machine learning to identify issues like broadcasting, blocking, maybe broadcast storms, et cetera, to be able to mitigate that. You can visualize your network through the Nebula Cloud. It also has a network topology, virtual stack capability, port status that you can drill into and do power, power resets. You get real-time port information, data transfer information, and then clients that can, as you drill in through, that's detected within that port. You can access diagnostic tools like remote cable testing or even fiber testing within that system. We also provide a high level of security within the switching kind of fabric. Cloud backup so that you can restore switches very easily, port security so you can block people or MAC addresses from accessing open ports. There's a lot of security holes that are there when, if you see an Ethernet port, somebody could, jack into it via a router or, their device and get connectivity potentially if that's not locked down. Auto network protection like loop guard, DHCP guard to prevent people from, putting their own DHCP servers on your network somehow and causing havoc. Reducing, simple access functions like link aggregation, RSTP, and then even some basic switch routing as well to route between networks or between VLANs. Being able to deploy these configurations to the Nebula Cloud. Again, we can back those up. We can restore them if you're doing even, again, break fix, be able to swap out a switch with a new switch and be able to inherit those same configurations that the previous switch had. That's going to be, a great kind of functionality for you to do those break fixes if necessary. You can clone switches for deployment. You can create templates to synchronize the settings and have some easy deployment through that. And again, we have 3 layers: simplicity, flexibility models, and the ultimate series models. I'm going to cover some of those here. On the switching side, we have PoE injectors. It's just kind of effortless connectivity. If you need 60-watt PoE with 5 gig multi-gig support, you can use the 12-6W, 60W, and then the PoE 12-30W. That's a 2.5 multi-gig PoE injection. It gives you 30-watt power. So those are great if you just have kind of the one-off antennas somewhere, or maybe just even a VoIP phone type scenario. The 1915 series is kind of our entry-level simplicity, manageable in the cloud. They typically have smaller power budgets, but it's perfect for maybe VoIP applications where your phones are only maybe using 7-8 watts of power draw to just needing power to power those up. So we have an 8 EP and a 24 EP with those configurations there. Now, if you're doing something related to CCTV or needing kind of extended power or extended range capabilities, their 1350 series is probably your best bet. It gives you not only the power, but also can extend the range of the Ethernet to 250 meters instead of 100 meters to provide you PoE and data. So without having to put another maybe extender switch in between. So it's great for cameras that have longer runs than typically. So 250 meters is about 825 feet or so. We can give continuous PUE. So even when the device itself has a kind of a soft reboot or a configuration reboot, it will still maintain the power so that all the cameras that are still connected, or any devices, even access points that are connected to it, do not need to do a full power cycle on themselves. And then be able to recover those devices when it detects maybe traffic is no longer coming through that port. It can kind of help you to do a quick reboot of that port and be able to see if that device comes back online. So really kind of help you with kind of that, providing that uptime without having to call your customers. So in our Nebula Flex, the flexibility range, this is where most of our partners in MSP find, kind of their niche. It's our 1920 series and our 1930 series switches. These are standalone and then Nebula Flexible. So you can put it in the cloud, put it into the free offering, or make it into a pro type device. All of our switches are lifetime warranty. Again, free tech support, no support contracts available for those. And our XS 1930s, those are typically the ones that will pair up with our Wi-Fi 6 and Wi-Fi 6E, kind of our top tier APs that have smart antenna. So those give you that 60-watt power. It's a multi-gig, all the way to 10 gig with copper 10 gig, as well as uplink, 10 gig and SFPs. So we have a fiber version that's just all 10 gig SFP plus fiber, or a PoE version, like an 8-port PoE. Our new XMG 1930 series, it's our multi-gig. It has 24 multi-gig, 1 gig and 2.5 gig ports, and then 4 multi-gig PoE that can go all the way up to 10 gig. And it has a 700-watt power supply. So you can choose that if you need to kind of build that mixed network. You might have some, higher end APs in the high concentration areas that you need the higher power, or you can use, and then you can use the regular ones in the multi-gig ports with standard power. Our GS 2200 or 2220 series and our XS 3800 series, these are what we call our ultimate switches. These are fully layer 2/layer 3 capable switches that has CLI, web interface management, and cloud management. So it's kind of the trifecta of all 3 management solutions that you may ever need, but then also have some key features for maybe if you're doing network AV, if you're doing some IPTV applications, they have interfaces and functionalities in there that help to facilitate those kinds of networks. The XS 3800 is kind of a Frankenstein, I call it. It has a bunch of different fiber SFP pluses and copper 10 gig that you can kind of choose, which ones, the little combo ports that you can choose which, side. Do you want more fiber or do you want more copper ports? And then we just launched our XGS 2220 series. So it's a gigabit switch with 10 gig uplinks, but manageable now in our cloud platform in Nebula Pro. And so it comes as Nebula Pro 1 year bundled with it. All of the Ultimate series come with Nebula Pro. The PoE can go all the way up to 960 watts in our 54 FP version. The standard 54 or 48 port PoE that we have is a 600-watt PoE. So very, very effective, very cost effective as well for the full layer 3 functionality capable switch. Now, if you want the layer 3, things like static routing, the QoS link aggregation, IPv6, etc., then we have like a layer 3 license that comes with these and allow for you to upgrade those. Actually, these ones have that, but the upgrade for the 1930 series, or you can upgrade those to a layer 3 function switch. So in our last time, or the last few minutes that we have here, I'm just going to cover our security offerings. So security is very important, making sure that the network is not only secure, but also manageable. How many times have you gone to a kind of a network and the customer says something's going on with your network, and the worst thing that an MSP or maybe an IT person could say is, well, I have no clue what's going on either, right? So we want to provide you that visibility from a content filtering perspective, from a UTM, antivirus, malware protection, ransomware protection, blocking of peer-to-peer, blocking of people using VPN applications or downloading illegal music or videos using BitTorrents, etc. We can block that and be able to give you control and provide that as a service to your customer when you're delivering these kinds of solutions. So content filtering, that's self-explanatory, web blocking based on categories, secure Wi-Fi functionality. So those access points that I mentioned earlier, some of them actually you can use it to tunnel directly to our firewalls. So you can build a remote tunnel through an existing internet connection, maybe at home, to extend the network and extend the same security policies and the same 802.1x authentication policies so that a user can use that at home. That's what secure Wi-Fi does. Connect and protect, you basically can add security functionalities within the access points themselves, or do collaborative defense response to making sure that when we detect something within our firewall, we can also tell the access points to block that user or isolate the user to prevent them from spreading. UTM security bundles, that's all of our anti-malware. It's kind of the bundle of everything that you see here. Gold security adds some additional features like sandboxing, IP and DNS reputation filtering. So that's in our kind of a top tier level. We want obviously everybody to go to the gold security pack because it gives you the best offering and the best solutions out there to help you prevent attacks. So security that constantly evolves based on, our partners that we use and the environment continually changing. We want to make sure our signatures and all of that is available and be able to protect not only local users, but remote users. So we're using something like Connect and Protect that, again, can add security layer to the access point side, or collaborative detect and response that will add a detection on the firewall and communication with our Zyxel access points to do that kind of isolation capability. Some of the new requirements that are out there in networks are going to require you to use some sort of collaborative defense response to mitigate network damage, I guess you can say, from an incident or from somebody being compromised. Centralized provisioning synchronization. So you can imagine if you're just managing a single site, okay, no big deal. But if that customer has 40 locations that you want to have the similar policies, being able to synchronize that across the kind of the organization, that's going to be very beneficial. Or even to build VPN tunnels between one site to another site and be able to do that quickly and easily and synchronize all of that. Remote workplaces, like I mentioned, secure Wi-Fi with the AP deployed, two-factor authentication. You can use like a Google authenticator there. You can use some auto VPN capabilities within the Nebula platform, and configuring of endpoint devices with the firewalls to help you to build those VPN tunnels. So the secure Wi-Fi application, again, it builds a tunnel through the internet connection without you having to install another firewall or a VPN capable device at the customer prem or at the maybe remote home location. So no longer do you need to tell your ISP at home to put it in bridge mode so I can install this router that can build a VPN. So you can really just drop this into an existing network. The user can take their laptop from work that has that authentication to that SSID, be able to go home, have that same SSID available, and have access to the resources that they need through that secured tunnel. So be able to do that very securely, very easily, without having kind of technical knowledge on how to do it. Just as long as you connect to that SSID, the IT person or whoever configured it would have already made sure that's all connected. And then you get network intelligence information. So this is where the value add for partners is the reporting, being able to get information on who went to what websites, how much bandwidth did they use, what security threats have been blocked. Because ultimately, if you're going to charge your customer a monthly fee for security functionality and security management, they want to know what kind of information is there so that their $100 a month or whatever they're paying is worthwhile. So you can customize these reports, be able to use this information in the logs also to identify abnormal user behavior, and it's seamlessly integrated within our Nebula Cloud platform. Frank did ask, I was unable to join till now. Will a recording be available? Yes. So on our YouTube channel, also on our Facebook channel, this will also be posted as well. So you'll be able to find that after the recording is over, probably within the next few hours. So that'd be great for you to check. And you can check any of our web information back then as well. So anything that's previous. So we do have simplicity, flexibility, and ultimate series again. And kind of the feature set functions. I won't bore you with all the information here, but one thing just to note is when you go to gold package or the ATP level or the ultimate level, that's where you get the sandboxing and IP reputation filtering. And it also has what we call hybrid mode, both cloud and stream scanning as well. So it's kind of flexible on what you're trying to use it for, whether you're trying to squeeze out more bandwidth or you're just, trying to make it as secure as possible. Now, keep in mind though, the ATP series, a lot of the higher end models is being kind of phased out locally within the US. They're not going end of life or anything. They're just being end of sale within the US because we wanted to standardize on the USG Flex for customers and partners. So you'll see more where maybe less of the ATPs will be available, but then you'll see the USG Flex, because as long as you add the gold license to the USG Flex, it becomes all the features of the ATP that you know of today. So the USG Flex is where most of our partners are going to sit. It provides you the greatest flexibility, not only in standalone, but also in the cloud, being able to manage all of those UTM functionalities within a high performance. So really the different models is all about scale of performance. Typically on the lower end there, the 100s, it's like, 5 to 10 users. We do say like 20 users, but then it ultimately is driven by speed. If you want to have full security, you want to look at the UTM throughput, and then base that UTM throughput number, take about 60% of that number is what maybe your customer WAN interface speed, it would facilitate. So of course, if you have higher bandwidth, then you need a higher end model in order to facilitate the full security protection at those higher speeds. Now you can see some of it like, hey, I need something that does gigabit speeds. So really your offering is kind of the USG Flex 700. It kind of gets approaches to, closer to that gigabit speed. But we know that coming out in October now is our USG Flex high performance series. So it's going to provide you much higher throughput speeds with the newer chipset that will kind of accommodate for those customers with the higher throughput and high security requirements. So you'll see that coming out in October. We will still carry the USG Flex for those who don't have maybe like gig or multi-gig connections, but we have an offer, at least an upgrade path for those who do move into that gigabit or multi-gig space on their internet connectivity. So everything just, again, always goes faster, stronger, it's always that. So hopefully in that October timeframe next month, when we launch the product availability, we're currently in beta right now. So we have a lot of beta partners who are currently testing that H series now. So if you don't know about our partner program, it's our ZAP program. It's a Zyxel approved partner. We have a bronze, silver, and gold. Most of you are probably going to be in our silver and gold partnership. You start out in silver, you can work your way up to gold. You have to maintain your silver by just doing 1K per month. Or if you want to go to gold, you just have to sell 2K per month in Zyxel products. So very low entry barrier there. There's no cost to you to join. So you can only gain benefits as long as you're doing business and you're loyal to Zyxel. We sell through D&H, Ingram, TD Synnex, Wave, Target Distribution, and Pace International right now, and a lot of other maybe smaller like sub-disties that are out there today. Again, reach out if you're not part of our partner program. If you want to connect with us on LinkedIn, Zyxel-US-channel is our North American LinkedIn page. Or if you want to see this recording or any other recordings and webinars that we've done in the past, go to Zyxel America channel. Also, if you just search for, I think it's Zyxel Networks on the YouTube as well, there's a lot of information, a lot of, self-help videos that are out there that you can utilize and kind of train yourself at your own pace. Or if you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can just search for Zyxel Try on LinkedIn and connect with me. So since we don't have much time, we only have 2 minutes. If you have any questions, I know we covered a lot of information. Please send me an email if you have a question, or to one of your sales reps. My email is try@zyxel.com. I'm going to stop it right here. I'm going to give you back your 1 minute before 12 o'clock. But thank you again for attending. Looking forward to talking to you again soon. Here, we just want to be here to help you and be your advocate for anything network related. So until next time, thank you for joining me. Have a great rest of your day.